Boo! Welcome back. I feel like this angle is kind of weird. Boo! I hope you can't see anything on my desk. So, I'm kind of sick. Woohoo! So I've got a mask on, so that means probably the way that I sound is a bit strange right now. Anyways, it is Friday. Last time I was recording on a Tuesday, which was a bit strange for today's standards and times, and the video came out on Thursday, so that was interesting. Anyways, we're back to our Friday usual schedule thing, so I have to record and edit today. I'm gonna hopefully try and like censor myself if I sound a bit icky, because I don't want to sound icky on camera. Anyways, I might sound a bit distant because of the mask and everything, but yeah, look, there's like little things. The Amazing Digital Circus came out on Friday, yesterday Friday. And wow, I can't really say anything right now. I'll get into it in like 2 seconds or 3 seconds. I kind of have more crazy stuff to update you on before I get into the sort of, probably as you can see by the title, like I'm gonna be theorizing a bit on or like at least yapping about the Amazing Digital Circus. Then I'm gonna go into my webcomic and stuff. So I did templates, so I will show you those templates, sketch layers, if you want to call them that, for these 4 pages that are going to be the next ones that I'm going to be working on for my own novel thing. So there's all that. I think I will start off with, because I haven't actually, oh wait, I forgot the whole thing. Okay, so if you can see, right, I have this thing called one jar type things, right? If you remember, I had 2 glasses. I technically had 3, but we are gonna forget the third one because the third one is kind of irrelevant. But I had 3 glasses where I would put my pens, but between 2 of them, I would transfer them. And then every time I transfer all 10 pens to one section, it would be 1 jar. So I was basically doing like a marble jar system for myself, but it was using these pens. I'm kind of slightly scared to touch them right now because I got these glasses from Flying Tiger, and then my friend sent me a TikTok on like Saturday or Sunday or something, and it was like, hey guys, so like these cups are being recalled because they have high levels of cadmium and lead. So I was like, oh, yippee, yummy. No, but like it's kind of crazy. That's kind of mad. That's like, how does that happen? And it was like, it was the strawberry glasses as well, and it was so funny because the day before I was talking to like my cousins about Nana and everything, and we were just discussing Nana, and I remember thinking, wow, doesn't like Hachi's like strawberry glass break later? Like I wonder if mine will ever break. And then it just so turned out the next day I get like told that, hey, it has cadmium and lead in it, and I was like, oh no, that's not really good. But the good thing is that I'm not all that normal, so I didn't really drink from them. I just used them to store my pens. But yeah, I don't know if I trust Flying Tiger anymore. So that was one thing that was kind of crazy. I also had them in my room for like the last 2 years or whatever, at least 1 year. I think it was more closer to 2 though, but that's kind of mad. That's kind of mad. I don't know if just being in proximity to them does anything, but they were in my room for 2 years, so if it does, then well, I guess it did something to me. But yeah, capitalism, man, sometimes it's crazy like that. Anyways, so yeah, that was kind of what I found out. So it was kind of funny because like my strawberry glass didn't have a chance to break and die. It just, well, it was I don't know. It's just gone. But apparently they're gonna get like all disposed of and whatnot, because I was speaking to like the person at the counter, and like, yeah, like they're just gonna get chucked away. So it was kind of crazy. Anyways, I got £4 from that, and I'm so glad I never drank from them, and I have lost my faith basically in companies. Anyways, so wake up, yap, get ready, yap. I'm also sick. I already said that, but I've been sick for like a week or so. I have been trying so hard not to be speaking and stuff, and not to cough and whatnot, and not to exert myself basically. So I've been trying to like chill everything down so that I could record for this video. I can kind of feel it slightly, the strain in my voice. I am just hoping that also with this mask on that it's not going to be like I'm not gonna feel the need to cough, because I feel like that just kind of makes me like I think it makes it worse. It makes it like you go back a couple of stages in your healing. That's all to say. Yeah, now I'm recording and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. Guys! Okay, so let me give you a little bit of a background, as in like a physical background, blah, blah, blah. I can't speak. Let me give you a physical background of the Amazing Digital Circus fan art that I did ages ago. Because this isn't my first time speaking about the series, because I kind of got into the series via the 7th episode, because I was watching. Basically, I was kind of like, hey, I know I like this because I like FNAF and everything. Is my iPad dead? That would be kind of crazy. But anyways, because I knew that I like FNAF and I like a lot of like indie things and a lot of indie theorizing things. I knew I would like it. I was kind of just putting it off. I kind of had nothing else to watch from GTA Live, so then I was watching their reaction to episode 7. Okay, yeah, so my iPad did die, but luckily it's on 1%, so it should be fine. Anyways, so that's how I kind of got into it. I watched this whole explanationary bit about like episode 7, and I was like, oh, I'm actually really into this. I want to know everything. So then I started it from the beginning, and then I got so hooked onto it. And honestly, it's crazy, it's good, it's amazing. And I was here for the premiere of episode 8 now, so yippee! I've also like recruited another family member to watch the Amazing Digital Circus alongside me, so that I have somebody else to yap to, because like yappity yap, you know what I mean? Anyways, so there's actually a lot. Okay, maybe I should. These were all my like past theories and like yappy bits that I had going on. Those are in, and maybe I'll link that video somewhere here in like a card type thing. Anyways, that's all to say that this isn't kind of spoilers. I'm probably gonna make a new page here, because then this is like whatever. Anyways, so I'll probably put a timestamp up now if you want to skip all of this, if you're not in the fandom, or if you're just like, I don't want to start this yet, so I don't want to really see anything yet, you know what I mean? Anyways, so that's the timestamp. Goodbye. Anyways, you know what, not the next episode, the like new episode number 8, I have not had enough time to grieve. I have not had enough time to grieve. I mean, like, the thing is, yeah, I watched it and I was watching it and I was sort of like around family at the time, so I didn't really have much time to process it. And then I processed it like yesterday and I was like, what if he's actually dead? Like, I don't want him to be dead. Like, I'm so hoping he comes back through, like, okay, listen here. Bubble is a troublemaker. Like, what do you mean he was rage baiting Kane the whole time? Do I believe in the able thing? Yeah, high key, I kind of see it. But like, also like, you know how like a lot of people have said about like how when Kingo was like, you know, doing all the hacky wacky thing and whatnot and doing all the Cody Bodie thing, there was like another person talking and people were like, hey, what if that's Abel, or like what if that's Bubble? And I'm like, oh my god, what if it is Bubble? What if Bubble is like a worse like tormentory thing and like just torments them in the next episode, and then they're like, oh no, we kind of need Kane back to like control Bubble or whatever, because Bubble's not that great of a guy. I like, the thing is with Bubble, you just can't tell, you know what I mean? So I really don't want it to go that way, where it's like, oh, Bubble is kind of more evil than Kane, let's just bring back Kane. Also with Kane, it's kind of really sad because I don't think like the cast members got a chance to like actually tell him, or like I think maybe at some point they were like, I remember them being like, oh, actually we were gonna like, they were talking about the adventures or something, but they never really got a chance to like say, hey, we kind of want to go on your adventures now, we kind of are like, okay, fine, like maybe there is no escape, maybe we should just like sort of like come to terms with our reality and whatnot. But yeah, like if Bubble takes over and is like the new ringmaster and is like maybe like if he takes over, then he'll like tell them more of the truth that Kane kept hidden. But I think he might also be quite worse. Do I think that there's an escape from this like plane of existence? I don't know. I I really don't know. I kind of want to lean towards saying no, or like that they're just digital copies and stuff, but I don't know, because like I know Gooseworks herself has said that like sort of like the moral or the message of this, the takeaway from this series is like to find meaning in a stagnant life, or something along those lines, like value or something in this stagnant life. Which, I mean, like if it turns out they're all files and they're all just brain scans, then that's pretty stagnant, you know what I mean? Anyways, another thing, right? C&A, right? I don't even think Kinga referred to it as Cain and Abel, which is kind of mad, because I don't know if he did. I'll have to rewatch it to see if not. But Cain and Abel, if it does stand for Cain and Abel, because the only times that we've heard it referred to as Cain and Abel, or like the first time that we heard it referred to as Cain and Abel was like in, I realized I like spelled his name completely wrong. Whoops. Anyways, but the first time that we get that like thingy is like in the Gone episode, where like clearly I don't know how to draw a gun, but on the barrel you see it say Cain and Abel, right? But that's within the digital circus. That's all within, like, you know, however you draw a circus tent. Anyways, that's all within the circus, so that's not necessarily true that CNA stands for Cain and Abel. But I think it's really weird for you as a company to name your, to name your company after a product or a project that you haven't fully developed. Specifically, if they've already tried to develop Cain and they kind of stepped back from Cain and they thought of him like, you know how Bubble said like, oh, you're a failure, you're defected, whatever, blah blah blah. If they took a step back from him, then why would you like include him in the name of your company, right? Like if you had two AIs, right, Cain and Abel, then why would you like, I don't really see it necessarily being Cain and Abel unless there is a human Cain or a human Abel. Or potentially they were working on two projects and it was like Project Cain and Project Abel. And maybe AI Cain is part of Project Cain type of thing. Where like, I kind of always kind of suspected that there would be like some FNAF-ish type of business partnery type of thing where it's like, oh, like there's a betrayal or something. But now with like the introduction of Scratch, and like we know that Scratch is like, I don't know how to spell Scratch, and we know that Scratch is a is a programmer. We kind of didn't get confirmation if Queenie is. I feel like Queenie is, but Scratch, and then you've got Kinga, and then you've got Queenie. I can still see, even if there isn't a human Cain and a human Abel, and maybe they're just two kind of sister projects, brother projects, if you want to say that, or something. Like if there's like, hey, we're building the C thing and then we're building the A thing, then I can see that being like, again, the sort of like what I was saying with the FNAF-ish business partner thing was like, hey, I feel like one of these employees has to have done something bad. And that's why also with Kinga I was kind of hesitant to fully commit to liking him, because I was like, what if he turns out to have been doing like something really regrettable when he remembers? But currently it seems like he remembers it and he seems like he's a nice guy, and I want him to really be a nice guy, so I don't think so. But also the introduction that like Scratch has a tumor in his brain and is also a genius kind of maybe makes like Scratch the unwilling participant of like things going awry, that type of thing. Like maybe involuntarily Scratch is the reason for like a lot of this, like maybe like a lot of what went wrong, like maybe, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm yapping now. The interesting thing is with Queenie is that like technically on the chess piece, like she'd be here and Kinga would be here, if that makes sense. Like they would have started like, and I feel like that symbolizes quite a bit. Like for example, it could represent that they both had like conflicting ideas or like maybe creative disputes, or disputes in like, hey, which project should we lean on, or like, hey, what's our like end goal, or like, hey, why are we doing this, that type of thing. Like what's our outcome, what are we trying to develop, that type of thing. If those two were on opposite ends, like maybe that's what it's trying to symbolize, that they had like creative differences or differences in what they wanted to make in particular. Because it seems like from what we hear about Scratch is that he was trying to make like a way to upload his consciousness and like sort of like live forever, that type of thing, where like, you know, his brain's there and like, you know, can be accessed like such, he can like just exist elsewhere, in this like digital domain place, the circus, right? So I don't know, maybe it's like Kinga and there's Queenie, and maybe Queenie is opposed to that idea, or maybe Kinga is with that idea, maybe Kinga is against that idea, Queenie is with that idea. Because I've seen some people speculate that, hey, maybe Scratch was trying to develop like a sort of like place for like terminally ill kids so that they can sort of like live on. Because it's got like a lot of like childhood nostalgia that was being fed into the red dot, which we take as being Kane, right? Like all of these circusy traits, all of these like fast food, this, that, toys and whatnot. So we see all of that data being fed into Kane. So it looks like if that's what Scratch was feeding into Kane, the red dot, it seems like Scratch was making a safe haven. I say safe haven and now I'm thinking of Poppy Playtime, but was making sort of like a safe place for terminally ill kids. And then I like the theory that like somewhere along the line, when he realized that he had a brain tumor and whatnot, he decided to maybe make this place for himself, or test it with his own brain scan or something, maybe, or put his own images inside or whatnot, blah, blah, blah. His own persona or himself, because we kind of still don't know if it's just brain scans or if it's like they're plugged into a machine somewhere. But the plugged into the machine thing is also interesting, but I'll go into that later. But so like they're probably on different sides. It could symbolize that, hey, they were on different sides, but then like towards the end, because usually towards the end of the game or whatever in chess, the queen, the opposite queen, is quite close to the king, right? I think that's kind of just like normal. Like usually like the king doesn't really move around that much and is in this territory, whilst the other queen usually, because she's quite powerful, is traversing the land and sort of like ends up quite close. I don't fully know too much about chess, so I can't really say if it's like a checkmate type of situation. I don't think so necessarily, but maybe it's like symbolic of like, hey, she changed her ways, or like if it is like checkmate, maybe it's like logically she like reasoned it out with him, and so now he's on her side more so because he agrees with like what she said. Like he's like, oh no wait, actually like XYZ reasons why you're right in saying that, so I am on your side now in our like route of like how we want to go about doing things. Or it could stand that she's like on his side now, so she kind of understands his point of view for like development and stuff, and wants to go along more what he wants to create. Because there was this like, again, like Scratch being the very more abstract-y shapes and the rest of them kind of making more simpler, more like easy to understand stuff. So I think that's interesting. So like again, I think it's like something like Kinga and Queenie now are on the same sides. That's kind of what I want to say. Like if Queenie, like if the whole like catching bugs and stuff was like Queenie's a debugger or something like that, then I think maybe they didn't start off seeing each other's point of view of like, or like maybe they were on opposite ends of like, hey, we should do this, or hey, we should do that, isn't this a better idea to go about doing XYZ if this is our goal? Or like, hey, maybe our goal shouldn't be that and it should be XYZ, other XYZ or something like that, right? It's like they were on opposite ends, not to say who's right or who's wrong, but like they kind of came to an agreement, or like one kind of logic the other one out into like kind of being like, okay, yeah, we'll go with you rather than going with my idea because your idea sounds more like, I don't know, ethical, or like makes more sense, right? So I kind of see it being that with Kinga and Queenie. I feel like Scratch might be also on the opposite end, because again with the like everything that he's creating is quite irregular, or like, you know, you can't tell if it's because of his genius or because he's got a tumor inside his head, and what the rest of them are creating something that's like very known, very like reasonable, I want to say, like something that isn't so out there the way that Scratch's things were. Which, I mean, the whole concept of like having a circus and whatnot is quite out there, and it's quite unique. the way that maybe what they were developing was not. But yeah, I am still quite certain that if there might be a Kane enable thing going on here in the real world, or it might just simply be not a Kane enable thing, but like 2 projects. Or if there is, like, I don't know, because you see, the thing is, right, previously I said that it feels like Kinger is either able or Kane, but it makes more sense for him to be able. I kind of wrote it here if you want to read that. If Kinger is able, I feel like Scratch has to be Kane to some extent. You know what I mean? Like, even if we want to go about like development wise or whatever, but it's also interesting that it's like, if you want to see it that way, like if you want to see it as 2 projects and Kinger's doing the A project or whatever and Scratch is developing this project, right? And this is the more I forgot what I was saying, I can't lie. If you want to see Kinger as doing the A side of this project, the able side, and you want to see Scratch doing the Kane side, it's quite interesting that it's Kinger who ends up, technically, by looking at it on like without deep diving like everything that's going on in the computer, it looks like Kinger accidentally kills Kane, which is quite the reverse of like Kane killing Abel thing, right? Where it's like Abel kills Kane. But then we see what on the computer, and it looks like maybe it was AI Abel, or like maybe Bubble, maybe whoever on the computer who did it. Like, it wasn't actually Kinger, it was some other entity on the computer, which might be Abel, which might be Bubble. Also, an interesting thing is, like, previously I've written like about like how the moon and the sun, there's so much moon and sun imagery, like with the door as well, there being like the moon and the sun, and one side it being red and then one side it being blue, because in Kinger's in his office, right, you've got the big sun and it says Kane, which leads me to believe the moon's quite like Abel, right? And then when you open the door, it's the moon's on the other side basically, which means like on one side basically the moon's on the red side, on the other side the moon's on the blue side, and vice versa with the stars. But I think it's quite interesting because it kind of makes it feel like Kane still needs Abel to survive basically, or like, access point, that type of thing, because it's quite close to the door handle and that. But also like the dialogues with the moons and the sun, and it feels like the moon is what Kane wants Abel to be, like Kane's version of Abel. Or maybe now that we know that they've merged, maybe the moon has like somewhat that remnants of Abel, or I think more so it is like the version of Abel, and the sun being Kane's guilt, or like subconscious. Like, again, you can hear like beeping outside, but like the sun imagery you see quite a lot with Kane, and the moon imagery you see quite a lot with Abel. Wow, that was a big beep. The moon imagery you kind of see a lot with Abel. But what's interesting is when I was looking at the merch is that you've got something like, it's the moon here, and then you've got the sun here, and then you know who's at the bottom? You've got Bubble, which is so interesting, because if this is actually like Abel and this is Kane, then Bubble is probably like, the mixture of the two, which would kind of make sense with the B-ball type of thing. Anyways, so that was interesting. Also, I've heard people talk about like the imagery of the, how am I gonna draw this? Like, it's not in this perspective per se, but just bear with me. But the knife and the what do you call it, the cupcake that gets split in half. When Kinger's talking about Scratch, you see this muffin that gets split, that's like split in half with a knife, which seems very on purpose. And to me, what it looks like, which I haven't heard anybody talk about online, is it looks like a severed brain, because you've got like the one hemisphere and the other hemisphere. I think they're called hemispheres, but like the left and the right split, and it seems surgical because there's like a knife there. And at that time, like, King is talking about Scratch's brain tumor, so either it's brain surgery leading, or it's like kind of suggesting the disconnect between the two hemispheres, or like the disconnect between what Scratch intended to do and is now set out to do, something like that. Maybe like a disconnect between what he previously intended and what is now where he's heading with the whole project and everything, or like even like it can symbolize like maybe one's C and one's A, with like them being two different projects. Another thing that I really like is the like Jacks being related to Scratch. Oh, I can't spell. And the reason that I like that, also, like, a lot of people have said this before, but Scratch is the name of like a program that like kids use to like learn computing on and stuff, which again, very interesting choice. So Scratch, right? I like the idea that like a lot of people have said because of the similarities, like them having the yellow eyes and everything, and they're both being like tall animals with like stuff. What's it called? Oh, that's my pencil. They have like quite a lot of similarities in terms of like they're both animals, they both have the yellow eye type of look, they both have that long humanoid body type of look, and they've got the gloves. I think they both have like yellow gloves, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, that's a glove. Yeah, anatomy. Anyways, so that's that. I like the idea that Jax was out looking for what happened to his father. Because if Scratch got uploaded when he did, which I think is 1998 or something around there, and then Jax gets uploaded later on, because we find out that I think it's Pomni, then Zooble, then Jax, in terms of like if we go backwards, right? So if Jax came before Pomni and Zooble, right? Maybe during Jax's timeline, right? He's left the like maybe, right? He was a kid. He saw his dad working on this project or whatever, blah blah blah. Then one day his dad goes missing. Maybe people say he's dead. Maybe whatever, blah blah blah. Maybe his whole like childhood to adult life, because he enters the circus when he's 22. So from the Scratch's inception, does that make sense? I don't know if that's the right word for like going into the circus, but maybe Scratch went into, this is like the theory that if it's not brain scans, then this kind of makes sense, in the sense that maybe Scratch, or maybe it is a brain scan type of thing and he was trying to look for it. But it seems like, I don't know if they're brain scans or not, but for this example, let's imagine that they're real humans, right? So Scratch, at some point, they're building the circus, blah 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 blah. He goes and Scratch goes in, as in Scratch goes inside the circus, right? Jax is however old Jax is child right now, right? Then at some point he grows up to be 22, and maybe he's like, hey, I actually feel like a lot of what I was told as a kid, or like maybe as a teen, was kind of dodgy, and I want to figure out what happened to my dad. Maybe that's what the driving is, like him driving his car or whatever, blah blah blah. He's driving whatever, blah blah blah. I don't know what perspective I'm doing, I keep changing this. Anyways, he's driving his car. I guess he's coming towards us. Okay, so he's driving his car to go to the facility where this whole thing has been conducted, whatever. And at this point, do I think the facility is abandoned? No. Maybe it has. Maybe it's like in early stages. But that's the thing, right? Because a lot of people think that with Pomni saying in one of the episodes that she liked to explore abandoned buildings, and so did Zooble say that. And like, it could be that both of them, so we've got Zooble and we've got Pomni, and then I think Jax is the one before Zooble. So if these two arrived when it was abandoned and put on the headset, then surely if Jax was there as well during like when Jax was abandoned, if Jax was there when like the what do you call it, facility was shut down and he entered, or maybe it was on its last knees maybe, and he entered the circus, then surely Zooble or like Pomni should have seen like Jax's body. / if the facility was shut at this point, my question is like, with the human bodies, right, if they're all plugged in, then surely that means that CNA is still a thing, right? Because if at some point it's abandoned or whatever, then like one of the later people, like either Jax, either Zooble or Pomni, would have seen like decaying bodies if nobody's looking after those bodies anymore. You know what I mean? Like it should have been like an Amanda 3 type of thing where like, you know, you see pods and of like just like decaying matter, right? But none of them say that, right? Which is kind of crazy. So it kind of feels like, if they are humans, like if this isn't just a brain scanning thing, and if they do have human bodies that they can return to, then surely somebody has to be like looking after those human bodies in order for them to return to their bodies. Otherwise, then when they return to their bodies, they're probably just going to be like dead. You know what I mean? So that's kind of really interesting, because it's like, well, I hope I hope they're not dead. And I've kind of already said this, that like maybe they're all being observed in the sense that like there are CNA employees that are like monitoring the situation and that are allowing this situation to play out to its entirety and maybe not interfering. Because I feel like, I think I said before this, where the award show vote thing was kind of really weird. I'm kind of gonna let you read that because I am sick right now. But the votes aren't proportional with like us, the actual humans watching this show, because people did vote for Kane even though he got like no stickers, and it's also not in proportion to the NPCs because there's NPCs that tell him like we love you and whatnot, right? So I thought it was like, hey, maybe what if there's like a beta watchers type of thing, like, because if they're trying to make the show, and maybe it's the show, you know, maybe it's like Kane Enable, the show where you can actually go and be like a VR part of it, like it's a game, you know, because I think that's the thing that like it was mentioned in like I think it was mentioned in the pilot or whatever, where like the Amazing Digital Circus is a game type of thing, and like if it is for terminally ill children and they can enter this game and it's like sort of like a place where they can like just be away from the pain of their physical bodies, then there probably is like a beta watch team or a beta like testing team, right? And who knows, I feel like maybe Ragatha, when Ragatha joined, she was part of like this beta team or whatever, because she goes, hey guys, how do I get this off, how do I get this headset off? I don't think we hear Pomni refer to like actual people, but we heard defo Ragatha saying it, so it feels like during Ragatha's time there was still like a beta watch team type of thing and maybe a beta program. I don't know if it all got scrapped or something and somehow like Zubul and Pomni like came across them, but then if Zubul and Pomni came across when this was all like scrapped or whatever, then who's looking after the bodies is my question. Unless their bodies are like hooked up virtually from another spot, like maybe their bodies are in the hospital or something, like when this whole thing like collapsed or whatever, when CNA kind of stopped being a thing, like if they were all transferred into like the hospital's care or like some private health care or whatever, and like maybe Pomni and Zubul just stumbled across it like in the wild, so nobody knows that their bodies are connected to the system, or maybe it's actually they don't know, because if it's still being monitored, I don't know, there's so many questions up in the air. And also like it is kind of weird because like I don't see it working as them having physical bodies unless those physical bodies are in care / have been like the care has been deferred to like maybe the hospital or something, because it seems like CNA is abandoned. But yeah, like the whole thing that Drax has like came to look for clues, and then like now that he knows that Scratch was an employee and whatnot, and now that King is actually like speaking, and like now he's realizing, oh my god, my dad was trapped in the circus and whatnot, but my dad abstracted, which could kind of like show why he had the reaction that he did when his eyes went all scribbly and he was just like but he was like I don't know what's going on, you know what I mean? Like that could kind of explain it if it turned out he just found out that like his dad like has abstracted, so there's no way back, you know what I mean? Anyways, but yeah, I think honestly as well, Kane dying, that was kind of really sad, because like I don't think you can simplify Kane as just like a human hating AI. Like he had feelings and stuff, and like they were synthetic, yes, but like they still like he still felt things, and like he was just kind of like a toddler with like so much power, but like he got tantrums. But it's kind of crazy because I also saw a meme where it's like Kane for like most of his like digital life has been like happy, yippee yippee yappy, and then like with the 8 episodes of Pomni it's like everything's like spiraling. But it's also interesting because Pomni is a jester, and jesters usually were the first to poke out problems and stuff, so that was interesting. Honestly, I feel like he kind of needed gentle parenting, as in he just needed like people to be like, hey, constructive criticism wise, like you did this well, but like this could have been done better or whatever, blah blah blah. He just kind of needed a gentle parent, which like Kingo could have been had he not like, you know, manipulated Kingo's brain into like being silly. But that too, we don't necessarily know yet. Though to be fair, it did seem like Kinga had consciousness of the whole situation in the light when he was like saying like, hey, I think I accidentally killed Kane. He had his bucket on, but his bucket wasn't on his like complete face. So it kind of makes me think that, hey, yeah, maybe there was like modifiers on Kane's side, because in the light then he was still like okay. And that's kind of it. I think I can't wait to see where this like show goes, and I'm so gonna be sad. The thing is as well, I kind of want to buy merch from them, but I'm also like, it's like I can't leave anyone behind, which makes it like impossible to buy merch, because it's like, well then what do you buy? Because it's like you kind of want everyone, because it's like, where would I leave anyone, you know what I mean? Anyways, so that's my little doodles. I think, yeah, Jax's Scratch's son and was looking for you know, answers, and that's how he got wrapped up in this whole thing. And then maybe he went a bit doo-doo-doo and he was like, you know what, nothing's real, like why am I like, why do I care about anything? But now he knows that Scratch was here, and then he's like, oh, Scratch is most likely my dad, because maybe he remembers his dad having a brain tumor or whatever. Because you know what, also, you know when they had like the whole bar scene where like he's there and Zubal's there and whatnot, and then Zubal asks about like, or somebody asks about like Jax's like previous life and whatnot, blah blah blah, his like Earth life. He makes the Breaking Bad reference, and then he goes, what does he say? He says the thing about like, oh, I had cancer and blah blah blah. Like, even though it seemed irrelevant at the time, maybe it wasn't all that irrelevant, and maybe, you know, cancer as an entity as a whole has impacted his life because of his father and whatnot. Anyways, I realized I yapped way too much, so I'm probably just gonna leave it there. That's kind of my yap sesh. I hope that Kane isn't dead and that he comes back alive, and that's kind of it really. Yeah, I have so much footage to sift through now, because it's been like 48 minutes, because I didn't plan this yap sesh properly. Otherwise I would have made like something like this where I could just like write down my thoughts. Yippity-doos. Anyways, bring back the people who are interested in the webcomic. So welcome back, webcomic goers, webcomic people. Anyways, so yeah, we're back to the webcomic stuff. If you missed the amazing digital circus stuff, man, I say watch it. Watch that. I think it's a lot more like, I think even when I recommended it to somebody who's currently watching it, they didn't realize how deep it was until they were like, oh wait, maybe I've been taking this like too shallowy. Anyways, if you're into FNAF and Puppy Playtime and all those like indie like theorizey things, which I assume you are, because you're like, you know, most likely if you're watching this, then you have similar interests. And you have similar interests to me, so likely you might enjoy it. Anyways, so again, this part is like the description-y bit from like last week, where I kind of have to just explain the description-y bit, because this is a comic turned into a novel turned into a webcomic, so it's narrated as a novel. So there's parts where there is descriptions, so to combat those descriptions I make these big chunky files. So this is how big it is usually, and then you just zoom in. But it looks pixelated here, but the actual canvas is 8,000 by 6,000, so it's quite big, so you can zoom into little bits and bobs, and so that's kind of what's gone on. And yeah, different things are being explained about the backgrounds. So that's page 42. Page 43, we kind of just like end off the sort of like the actual like place that they're in, and then we go to this where we're finally back into the dialogue, and here's Jazz, and she's gonna hold the register in her hand, and then there's Rocky here. He's just kind of looking away, he's kind of just being himself, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We see Laura's feet there, and then it's just, she goes like, do you want me to write your name down and stuff in the register, or do I wait for Barbara? She goes, how am I supposed to know? Because this is the first time she's brought a pet in. This is Jazz's family's shop, I guess. It's a pet daycare and also a vet clinic. But they live upstairs. They live in like that section over there. And like just upstairs in general. Downstairs is kind of like here's the clinic room, here's the staff room, here's the daycare, here's the outside, here's the fire exit, that type of thing. Anyways, so my voice is kind of dying. Anyways, so I like this angle. I was kind of using my mangas to give me sort of inspo for different angles, because like sometimes you need a reference. Anyways, so she goes, how am I supposed to know? And then it's like, Jazz, you've got to be late, which is Jazz's dad speaking, but we kind of don't know that yet. Anyways, so then we have Laura's face go like this, so she's looking towards, like, Laura's here, which means she's like here, which means she's looking now towards the door instead of at Jazz, so that's why that angle changes. So she's like that, and then Jazz looks from here that way, that's why her angle changes that way. So she's looking there, she's looking there, Laura's looking this way, Jazz is looking that way. It's like, Jazz, you're gonna be late for school. And then we see Rocky, who's the rabbit, and he just looks kind of dead because he just doesn't really want to be here. Anyway, so then we move on, and then I've kind of done, like, this is probably the most I've done for Rex ever. Rex is Jazz's dad, so I guess character drop. And I basically need to draw him out fully at some point. This proportion seems really wrong to me, so I'm just going to draw him on a different canvas and then yeet him in here. A lot of this is just descriptions of how he looks and whatnot, so I'm going to follow that line as he's standing there, and maybe I'll add something in the background. Anyways, so we see the door open because her dad comes from the vet clinic, and this is just like some of the stuff over there, as you can see over here. Like, it's gonna match this section of it. Anyways, it opens up, and then we're describing Rex, and you know, like his brown hair, and he's got his glasses nested in it, his skin color and his eye color, and let's say figure out how that looks. I think I'm speaking about the coat right now, and draw in a separate canvas. Yeah, that's kind of what I need to do. And then it goes about his height and stuff, and then what he's wearing, so the lab coat, and then the printed orange shirt, and then the shorts, and then his exposed hairy calves, and he's wearing sandals with socks, which Laura assumes is a health and safety violation. But what does she know? Anyways, that kind of sums up what Laurie's like. She's like, I think this is going to be a bad idea, but what do I know? Anyways, yeah, so then this is Rex's eyes. Yeah, I might have to, like, this is a bit doodly, this is a bit painterly, but I need to figure out a way how to translate him into the sort of webcomic general style. Anyways, so then he goes, who's that? And then these two are like, they kind of look to each other, and then we see like Rex in the corner, Rookie looking over at Jax. Rex, sorry, I think I said Jax, but like my brain is so fried right now and sick, so you know. I looked at Jazz, I looked at Jazz kind of concerned. She shared my sentiments, and then what's her name? Laura is like, me? And then Jazz is also angry. She's like, you know who Laura is? And then he's like, oh, forget her. And then it continues. Because he's like, I meant this guy. And then he goes running towards Rookie, the rabbit. Because obviously he's like a vet and that. So like he cares about animals and that, innit? Like that's how it's just like working around. Because he just cares about animals more so. Because Laura's kind of like thingy. He cried, approaching Rookie with a one-track mind. I meant this little fella. And then Laura's like, nice to see you too, Mr. Sakurai. I said with a sarcastic sigh. Nice to see you too, Mr. Sakurai. And then Rex gently grabs the bunny from his door. How much attention would this rabbit rob me of? Blah, blah, blah. And then we have like yappity yap bits, and then they're talking, and then they're talking, and then they're talking, which kind of is what they do. Anyways, so yeah, a new character unlocked, except for I haven't drawn him out properly. But I think that would be very fun, because I don't know if I want to give him like a bit of a painterly intro, the way that Jazz was introduced, which I'll show you. Jazz was introduced a bit less than 20 pages ago, and this is sort of like her introduction, where it's just like this splash panel of her face and that, and it's just like, wow, like if this was a webcomic webtoon type of thing. Because I have been formatting it for YouTube and webtoon, because it's going to go on my other YouTube channel, which insert here, and I will be dubbing that. But I also do want it to go on web, like I want it to be scrolly ready formatty, but with scrolly ready formatty, I don't know if I want to go with webtoon, even though I'm like formatting this for webtoon as I go along, just to make it easier in case I do choose that. Yeah, so this is the way that jazz looks. I feel like it would make me a little bit more happier, but I haven't done a full body in quite a bit, so I'm a bit scared. I'm a bit scared of drawing them full bodied. Anyways, so I'm happy that I'm getting back into like the actual like character drawing part of it, because for the most part it has just been this sort of descriptions, and so I've just been like reusing this, but like, you know, choppy pasty, like zooming in, zooming out to like things that are relevant, like according to the speech bubble and that. But that is it for now. It's been an hour, so this is probably going to be a longer video, which is great because that means I have to edit for longer, which I don't want to do, but alas, I've kind of put myself into a bit of a pickle because I like to yap, and that's no good. So bye, see ya, bye 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 bye.